Now, when it comes to Claressa Shields, well, here's where the story takes a turn that no one in the boxing world was ready to write, because what we are watching unfold right now is not a comeback, it's not a victory lap, and it's definitely not the next chapter of an Olympic legend. What we are watching is something much messier, much louder, and much harder to defend. Because the same woman who once stood at the top of the heavyweight mountain with a gold medal around her neck is suddenly running around with a wig that looks like it was borrowed from a Halloween bin on a Zeus Network reality show, with the energy of someone trying to convince the internet that this is the upgrade. And before we go any further into this one, you know what to do. Boxing is bleeding, the ring is empty, the legacy is on life support, so be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hype up that video. Because this story is wild, it's hilarious in places it should not be. And it's about to get a whole lot uglier before anyone steps in to clean it up. Here is the part that nobody on the Claressa Shields side wants you to focus on. The streets are talking. The clips are circulating. The screenshots are saved. And the consensus that is forming across hip-hop blogs, boxing forums, and group chats from Detroit to Atlanta is brutal in its simplicity, because everyone is saying the same thing, which is that Claressa Shields has gone from undisputed multi-divisional world champion to undisputed reality television cautionary tale in what feels like the span of a single news cycle. And the crazy part is, she does not seem to see it. She seems to think this is a flex. She seems to think this is the rebrand. She seems to think the cameras catching her acting out in a baddie's house is somehow the same kind of attention that came with knocking opponents into the second row, and that is the part that has fans, sparring partners, and former coaches genuinely worried. Because once you start mistaking a meltdown for a moment, the comeback gets very, very hard to script. So let's set the table. If you don't know who Claressa Shields is, well, you should, because the resume is not a debate. 2 Olympic gold medals. Undisputed at multiple weight classes. World titles stacked on a shelf so heavy it should require a permit. There was a time, not that long ago, where the conversation about the greatest female boxer alive started and ended with her name, and anyone who tried to argue otherwise was laughed out of the room. The streets respected her, the casuals respected her, and the purists, the ones who do not hand out compliments easily, respected her too. So how does someone with that much currency in the bank suddenly start spending it on the Zeus Network of all places? Well, that is the question that nobody around her is answering honestly, and that is exactly why this story has legs. Because here is what actually happened. Claressa Shields, instead of taking the next pay-per-view bag, instead of locking in a fight that would have cemented her as the face of women's boxing for the next decade, decided that her next big move was to film a guest run with the cast of Baddies. Not a documentary. Not a sit-down interview. A full, loud, mess of a reality show appearance where the entire point is to be as outrageous as the camera will allow. And the clips that came out, well, they are not the kind of clips you want stitched to your name when you are trying to be remembered as the female Muhammad Ali. They are the kind of clips that get screen recorded and replayed in slow motion by every podcaster, every blog, and every commentator who has been waiting for an excuse to drag the Claressa Shields brand into the dirt. And right now, they have all the excuses they need. And then, on top of that, came the hair. Because if you have been online for more than 10 minutes this week, you already saw the orange. You already saw the wig. You already saw the comments. And the comments did not hold back. People are saying she is copying Remy Ma. People are saying she is doing it on purpose, to provoke Remy Ma, to taunt Remy Ma, to dare Remy Ma to say something. People are saying it's giving Chucky. People are saying it's giving Blade. People are saying she has a Pinterest board secretly labeled, in their words, ideas I borrowed. And under any other circumstance, a hair color is just a hair color. People die. People wig up. It happens. But the problem here is not the orange. The problem is the timing, the placement, and the long, long list of receipts that came with it. Because Remy Ma was rocking the orange first, Remy Ma was rocking the franchise first, Remy Ma was building that aesthetic for years, and Remy Ma is the wife, the ex, the soon-to-be ex. The entire backstory of the man Claressa Shields is publicly tied to right now. And once you do that, Once you walk into the salon and walk out looking like a tribute act to Remy Ma, the woman whose husband you ended up with, you are no longer choosing a style. You are sending a postcard. And the internet read it. Now, you might be tempted to say this is a coincidence. Fine. Let's say it is. But the coincidences keep stacking. Because it wasn't just the hair. It was the franchise. It was the photo poses. It was the fits. People started lining the pictures up side by side, and the side by side does not lie. When you claim you have a stylist, and yet you keep getting caught in outfits that look like they were assembled in the dark, and the only consistent inspiration in your closet seems to be the wardrobe of the very woman whose husband you are dating, well, you can call it whatever you want, but the streets are going to call it what it looks like. And the streets, as always, are merciless. Here's the twist, though. Because Claressa Shields actually had a stylist. A good one. A stylist named Tiffany, who pulled together looks that even the harshest critics had to admit were sharp, polished, and on point. Photos from that era are still floating around, and they look like a completely different person. Clean, tailored, confident. The kind of looks that whispered grown woman with a Hall of Fame plaque incoming. So naturally, the question that started bouncing around the comment sections was simple. Where did Tiffany go? Why isn't she still styling Claressa Shields? Why did the best era of her wardrobe end the second things got serious with the new man? And Tiffany, to her credit, finally broke the silence and answered, because she said she was tired of the messages, tired of the same question over and over, and tired of being dragged into a narrative she never asked to be a part of. She said, plainly, that she was never the permanent stylist. She said she only did a few looks. She said Claressa Shields has had stylists for the important events. And then she said the part that everyone heard the loudest, which is that she does not work for free, which means if Claressa Shields is not on payroll, Tiffany is not on call. Read between those lines and tell me what they spell. Because what they spell is the very thing the internet was already whispering, which is that the woman who used to look put together every time the cameras rolled has cycled through whatever team made that possible. And what is left on screen now is the version of Claressa Shields that the budget, the rush, and the ego will allow. And then on top of all of that, she went orange. Bright orange. Wig orange. The kind of orange that demands attention even when attention is the last thing the moment needs. And here is the kicker that nobody in her camp seems willing to address. The wig, whatever wig it is, does not survive 24 hours. I called this in real time. I said it in the comments. I said this hair will not last a day. And right on cue, the very next set of clips dropped, and the wig was frizzy, the ends were dry, the lay was gone, and the whole thing looked like it had been through a war. The day before, hydrated. Smooth. Camera ready. The day after, like it had been left on the dashboard of a car in July. Now, you can blame the wig. You can blame the brand. You can blame the price tag, because some people are saying the unit was cheap, and the Baddies production probably covered it so Claressa Shields didn't have to pull from her own pocket. But here is the more uncomfortable truth, which is that you can have the most expensive hair on the planet, and if you do not know how to wrap, protect, and maintain it overnight, by morning it is going to look exactly like it did on those clips. And with the money this woman has earned in the ring, with the network she has access to, with the literal free education sitting on YouTube for anyone with 30 minutes and a mirror, there is no excuse. None. Hire someone. Watch a tutorial. Pay a teacher. Do whatever a grown adult with championship money does when they want a problem solved. Instead, what we got was day 1 Claressa Shields looking like a magazine cover and day 2 Claressa Shields looking like the magazine cover got rained on. And then comes the Papoose chapter. And this is where the temperature in the room really starts to drop. Because the day after the Baddies clips dropped, Claressa Shields was at an event for her own promotional company, T-Rex Promotions, broadcasting and giving fight instructions to her protege, Jaquan McElroy, who is signed to her. And under normal circumstances, this should have been a powerful look. A champion turned promoter. A woman building generational infrastructure. A boxer extending her name into the next era of the sport. Instead, the clip read like she had not slept in 2 days. The sentence was a run-on. The energy was flat. The head shake at the end of her own monologue, that little nod she gave herself, looked less like confidence and more like a woman trying to convince herself she still wanted to be there. And when you stack that against everything else happening in the public square right now, it lands very differently than it should. Because then Papoose walks in. And Papoose, who has been propped up for years as the loyal, attentive, hovering partner, the one who is supposedly always in her corner, walks into her event, to her ring, to her broadcast, and the room reads it like a Monday morning meeting nobody asked for. He does not get a jump up. He does not get a sprint across the ring. He gets a sideways hug, a half smile, and a vibe that anyone who has ever been in a cooling relationship recognized instantly. And before anyone jumps in and says it is unfair to read body language that closely, fine, let's say the hug was fine. Let's say the smile was real. The bigger problem is what walks in with him, because the song playing as Papoose entered the ring, according to people in the building and people online, was a Remy Ma track. A Remy Ma track. Whoever ran that audio knew exactly what they were doing, and the trolling was so loud you could hear it through the screen. You cannot script better dramatic irony than that, and the internet did what the internet does, which is loop it, slow it down, and replay it until everyone in the building was forced to acknowledge what just happened. And while all of this is going down, Papoose is in the back of the ring, chewing gum, posted up like the final boss in a video game nobody is playing, just standing there. Looking like a man who knows the cameras are on, but is not entirely sure what role he is supposed to be performing tonight. And notice the pattern. Pay attention to it. Papoose shows up for the boxing events. He shows up for the broadcasts. He shows up for the photo ops where there is a microphone, a credential, and an audience. But the baddie's appearance, the wrestling cameo, the goofier, looser, more reality-driven Claressa Shields moments, well, Papoose is nowhere to be found. He does not show up for those. He does not co-sign those. He does not even speak on those. And if that does not tell you exactly how the Papoose camp privately feels about the direction this brand is heading, then nothing is going to tell you. Here is where the open loop gets even tighter, because in the middle of that same event, Claressa Shields teased a Wednesday announcement. A big one in her words. She said the date. She said her fans were going to show up. She said Jaquan would be on the undercard. She said she was excited for every fighter under the T-Rex and Win Records umbrella, and she said it all in one breath. Like the air in her own announcement was running out. Wednesday. That is the loop. That is the cliffhanger. That is the date that either resets her brand or buries it deeper, because if Wednesday comes and goes with nothing, the jokes write themselves all over again, and the people who have been waiting to call her career officially over will have all the ammunition they need. Now, while all of this is unfolding around Claressa Shields, Papoose is over on his own corner of the internet, doing his thing, posting about the Knicks, posting about the finals, talking about New York basketball with the energy of a man who has waited 2 decades to feel this kind of vindication. And in the middle of one of those celebration live streams, where he is hyped, he is loud, he is on it, he says something that, if you slow it down, tells you everything you need to know about why his rap career never broke through the way fans always insisted it should have. Because he goes off on a tangent. He starts talking about the late DJ K-Slay, may he rest in peace, and he recalls a conversation where he was venting to K-Slay about how these people were hating on him, blocking his career, standing in his way, and how K-Slay used to push back and tell him, point blank, that he was giving these people too much power. That what is for you is for you. That nobody can stop your destiny. And Papoose admits, on his own live stream, that he is only just now starting to see what K-Slay was talking about. Only now, years later, decades into a career that has been defined, in his own words, by the people he believed were against him. That is not a flex. That is a confession. Because once you understand that the entire arc of Papoose, the entire reason his Jive Records deal never bloomed into the album run his fans wanted, the entire reason his mixtape stretch stayed a mixtape stretch, was that he was busy keeping score on imaginary enemies instead of building, well, the legacy makes a lot more sense. Nicki Minaj had to be dragged into the TikTok era kicking and screaming, and she figured it out and adapted. Papoose, by his own admission, stayed parked in the era that made him, and the world kept moving without him. Papoose can blame the labels, the radio, the algorithm, but Papoose admitted on his own live stream that the real ceiling was the one he built inside his own head. People online are not even letting him have the 90s anymore. They are pushing him back to the 80s. And the harshest comments, the ones that sting the most, are the ones pointing out that he leaned on the women in his life to carry the financial weight while he sat in his own head telling himself the industry was conspiring against him. That is not a career story. That is a cautionary tale. So now you have the full picture, and the picture is not pretty. You have Claressa Shields trading the championship belt for a Zeus Network credit. You have a wig that does not survive sunlight. You have a stylist who quit by clarification. You have a Baddies guest run that her own partner refuses to publicly acknowledge. You have a Remy Ma track playing as her man walks into her ring. You have a fighter making the announcement of a comeback fight in one breath, while looking like she has not slept in two. You have Papoose in the background, chewing gum, posting up for camera time, building a side hustle as a commentator on his girlfriend's events because, according to people quoting the famous Remy group chat, the money got thin. And you have the entire hip-hop and boxing internet watching the whole thing in real time, with the popcorn already buttered. And here is the twist that I do not think Claressa Shields is ready for, because every time a champion starts confusing relevance with respect, the algorithm shows up and gives them exactly the kind of relevance they were chasing, and then it takes the respect part out back. People are not searching her name for highlight reels anymore. They are searching her name for the latest mess. They are not pulling up the gold medal footage. They are pulling up the wig clip. They are not quoting her post-fight interviews. They are quoting her one-breath announcements. That is not how legends maintain their lane. That is how legends get demoted into characters. And once you become a character, you do not get to choose what the writers do with you anymore. But here is where it gets even messier, because the Papoose situation is not just about Papoose. It is about what Papoose represents inside this whole narrative, which is a man who, by his own admission, spent his prime years convinced everyone was against him, and who is now publicly attached to a woman in her prime who appears, in real time, to be making the exact same mistakes for the exact same reasons. Claressa Shields keeps acting like the world is sleeping on her, like the boxing media is unfair to her, like every critic with a keyboard is part of some larger plot to deny her what she has earned. And if you have heard that song before, well, you have, because Papoose was singing it for the last 20 years. And the people who watched him sink into that mindset are watching her hum the same melody now, and they are begging her to hear it. Because here is the truth that nobody around her seems brave enough to say out loud. Claressa Shields is still the best in her division. Claressa Shields still has the resume. Claressa Shields still has time. The window is open. The bag is still on the table. The historical position is still hers to claim. But every single Baddies clip, every dollar store wig, every one-breath ramble at her own promotion event, every moment where she chooses the reality television lane over the legacy lane, slams that window down a little further. And one of these days, the window is going to close, and the people who are laughing right now are not going to be there to open it for her. Now, you might be reading all of this and thinking, well, maybe she is just having fun. Maybe she is just trying things. Maybe this is the rebrand era and we should let the rebrand cook. Fair. I hear you. But there is a difference between a rebrand and a rerouting. A rebrand is when Serena Williams steps off the court and into venture capital. A rebrand is when Shaq trades the Post for the broadcast booth and the burger franchises. A rebrand is when an athlete in their prime, or just past it, takes the credibility they built in their sport and translates it into a second act that respects the first act. What Claressa Shields is doing right now is not a rebrand. It is a costume change. And the costume is loud, the wig is loud, the show is loud, and at no point in any of it does the woman wearing the costume look like she is enjoying herself. She looks like she is performing. She looks like she is auditioning. She looks like she is convincing. And that is exactly what the Papoose era of her life has produced, because once you spend enough time around a man who has built his entire identity on convincing the world that he should have been bigger than he was, well, you start to inherit some of that posture. You start to perform the success. You start to announce the announcement. You start to talk about what is coming Wednesday instead of just letting Wednesday come. And the second a champion starts narrating their own greatness instead of just being it, the audience can feel the difference, even if the champion cannot. And the audience right now, from the boxing purists to the gossip blogs to the casuals who only check in when there is a meme to share, every single one of them can feel the difference with Claressa Shields. That is not a small problem. That is a brand emergency. And I want to be clear about something, because none of this is about a hair color and none of this is about a guest spot on a reality show. People can do what they want. People can wear what they want. People can film what they want. The issue is not the choices. The issue is the pattern, and the pattern, when you stack it up, looks like a woman drifting away from the version of herself that earned the room she is standing in. Claressa Shields did not get famous for the wig. She got famous for 2 gold medals and a list of championship belts long enough to wrap around a heavy bag. So when the wig starts trending harder than the boxing record, that is not a win. That is a warning. And whoever is still around her who actually cares about the long game needs to walk into the room and say it before it is too loud to walk back from. Because here is the harsh part, the part that nobody wants to hear, but the part that every legend in every sport has had to confront at some point. The streets gave Claressa Shields her crown, and the streets can take it back. The streets handed her the Queen of Boxing title, and the streets are very, very capable of handing it to somebody else the second she stops protecting it. And right now, in real time, on camera, on Zeus, on stage, in the ring, in the salon chair, Claressa Shields is making it very easy for somebody else to step in and claim what she fought so hard to earn. And the saddest part is, she does not seem to see it. So let me put a button on this one, because the internet, as it always does, is undefeated. Every single week, between Claressa Shields, Papoose, and Remy Ma, this triangle gives us something new to talk about, and every week, the jokes get sharper, the clips get wilder, and the cracks get a little more public. Remy Ma has not had to lift a finger to win the public perception side of this thing, because every time Claressa Shields shows up in a new wig, in a new outfit, in a new pose, Remy Ma gets a free credit. Remy Ma did not have to drop a diss track. Remy Ma did not have to post a shady caption. Remy Ma did not have to do anything except exist, and the receipts walked themselves into the comments. And every time Papoose stands silently in the background of an event, chewing gum, looking like a man who is not entirely sure what room he walked into, Remy Ma wins again. That is the math right now. That is the scoreboard, and Remy Ma is currently up by a landslide. So here is what I want to know from you, and let me know in the comments, because I read every single one of them. Do you think Claressa Shields is destroying her brand by playing in the baddie sandbox, or do you think she has every right to explore lanes outside of boxing? Do you think the orange wig was a tribute to Remy Ma, a coincidence, or a postcard aimed straight at Remy Ma's front door? Do you think Papoose is the supportive partner he has always been marketed as, or do you think the internet has finally figured him out? Do you think Wednesday is going to bring an actual fight announcement, or do you think Wednesday is going to come and go like every other big tease in this corner of the internet? And last one, be honest, did you think that hair was going to make it past 24 hours? Because I called it. I called it the day it dropped. And I will call the next one too, because at this rate, there is going to be a next one, and a next one, and a next one, until somebody in her camp finally walks into the room and tells Claressa Shields the truth. If you made it to this point in the video, you already know what to do. Leave a like. Hit subscribe. Turn the notifications on so you do not miss the Wednesday update, because trust me, whether Wednesday gives us a fight announcement or another viral mess, you are going to want to be in the room when it happens. Hype up the video if you have not already, because the algorithm is watching, and so are we. And let me know in the comments which side of this triangle you are riding with. Are you Team Claressa Shields, Team Remy Ma always, Team Remy Ma forever, or Team Mute Papoose? Because every name in this story, Claressa Shields, Papoose, and Remy Ma, every one of them is one mistake away from another week of headlines. And I would not bet against any of them giving us exactly that. We will see you in the comments, and we will see you on Wednesday. And if you want to see what happens when another champion in another lane lost the script the same way Claressa Shields is losing it right now, well, the suggested video on your screen is the one you do not want to miss. Press play. Stay locked in. We are just getting started.